really strong lap this from Álvaro Bautista. He's all the way down in 14th position at the moment, set to move up inside the top 10 places. Loses a bit of time in the fourth sector, and that just exemplifies once again how close all of these riders are. You lose a bit of time in one sector. We were talking about Gerloff being up and down. One sector there, Bautista lost a little bit of ground, and instead of tracking for third position, he suddenly finishes the lap in 9th place. Still the best we've seen from Bautista so far this weekend. Now we pick up Gerloff again, making his way through the final sector. Can he get it right through sector 4? 0.2 of a second up after 3 completed sectors for Garrett Gerloff, who's looking to move above Jonathan Rea and potentially challenge the fastest time of the weekend so far. He's done so. It's a 1:34.512 from Garrett Gerloff. It's almost a 10th faster than Scott Redding managed for the fastest time in FP1.
Yeah, really impressive lap there from Gerloff to get that in at the end. And he's going to be under pressure, though, because Álvaro Bautista, we saw him in the 3 sectors before, was really strong. He's up at the halfway point of the lap, just lost an awful lot of time in that final sector. So we'll see if Bautista is able to make some improvements. We've got some other riders out there trying to find some time as well. But as it is right now, with 4 minutes to go, Gerloff sets the pace. But it's Jonathan Rea just leaving the pits now as well. Great
news for Bautista, great news for Honda this. They've got the 2 of their riders out on track together. Haslam's rolled it off to allow Bautista through, and he's got his teammate within sight of him. Bautista looking really strong, and again, strong through the first 3 sectors. Now the question is, what can he do through sector 4?
Yeah, last time we saw him come through the GT chicane, he had a big wheelie on the exit. We'll see if he's a bit smoother this time around, and if he is, that might find a little bit of time for him.
Bautista swerving away from the green paint on the outside of the final turn, and he's done a great job through the final sector, hooks up the 4 sectors together, and Bautista with a 1:34.741 goes 3rd fastest, and that's certainly higher than we've seen him up the pecking order through the majority of Fridays this season.
Yeah, you can see Leon Camier there, team manager on the right hand side, and then crew chief Julio on the left hand side for Álvaro Bautista, and that's really positive for Honda. We talked about it in pre-practice 1 about how disappointing the season's been for Honda so far. This is going to give them an awful lot of encouragement.
Now the question is, can he continue it on, of course, for the remainder of the weekend and pick up some major points? But at least in terms of headline times, that's a great effort from Álvaro Bautista. Leon Haslam's out on his latest lap. Meanwhile, following his customary strategy, Luca Myers is out there on the circuit directly behind this man, Jonathan Rea. We'll catch a glimpse of him now. The bright pink helmet, you can't miss him. The number 44 following the lead Kawasaki around, and Myers in line to move inside the top 10 if he can stick with Jonathan Rea here.
Yeah, and he has had a tendency to stick with Rea. You can see there for Jonathan now, he's down by just under a 10th of a second through 3 sectors. We know the Kawasaki's been good in that final sector, though, so we'll see if he's able to close up a little bit on Garrett Gerloff's fastest time.
Just over 2 minutes remaining in free practice 2, and we're getting towards penultimate lap times coming in now. Jonathan Rea looking to recover top spot from Garrett Gerloff in the closing moments. 1:34.512 is the time to beat, and he has obliterated it. 1:34.391, the fastest we've seen from anyone this weekend so far, by more than a 10th of a second. Gerloff then drops to 2nd fastest. Bautista half a second slower than he was able to go on the previous lap that time around, 1:35.250. Gerloff now will try to respond against Jonathan Rea. He's a 10th of a second up after 3 completed sectors. So it's over to you, Garrett Gerloff. The button change or the handover at the top of the timesheets. Rea's had a go. Gerloff has pipped him, and now Jonathan Rea responding. Gerloff goes a little bit deep there into the Geert Timmer curve for what's going to be his penultimate lap now. You fancy he'll get one more go at it. It's not going to be on this latest lap around. Too much time lost through sector 4.
Yeah, but Gerloff's pace has been really consistent here in this final stint. If he finishes inside the top 3 and we see his analysis at the end of this session, it's going to be making for impressive reading.
Jonathan Rea also making for impressive reading at the moment. He's continuing to match the pace of what he's shown over the last couple of laps. That 1:34.391, the headline fastest time. But Rea, Gerloff, Bautista, Sykes, Razgatlioglu. How about that top 4 for a clutch of different manufacturers as well?
Yeah, and then you can throw in the likes of Toprak and Myers and Redding and Rinaldi all in nice and close. It really does look like we're going to have a very competitive picture this weekend here in Assen.
Yes, less than a second covering your top 13, less than 4 tenths covering your top 6. 30 or so seconds on the clock. Jonathan Ray up after sector 3, only by 14 thousandths, but he has been making ground in the final sector as well. Not this time around, but it's another consistent lap from Ray, very much in the ballpark, within a tenth of a second of his outright fastest. See if Gerloff can respond for single lap pace in the dying moments now before we see the checkered flag in Assen for Friday. We're watching Leon Haslam at the moment. He's all the way down in 11th position, set a new personal best last time around to go 12th fastest in the overalls. Checkered flag about to fall. Gerloff up after 3 completed sectors. We'll see what he can do now through the final couple of turns. The Git Timmer curve, much talked about and much lauded here in Assen. And if Gerloff gets it right, he could recover P1 from Jonathan Ray. Not quite. It's a 1:34.531, but again, another lap for your counter there, Steve. He's right within a tenth of a second of his fastest on what is going to be his final lap in free practice 2 as the checkered flag falls.
Yeah, he looks like the proper danger man right now as it sits, and certainly for Gerloff, he's been knocking on the door of that first race victory in World SBK. If this is a good indication of it, he could well get it this weekend because he looks comfortable out there. I know he's been a little bit up and down in terms of his sector times, but his overall lap times have been really consistent. So for Garrett Gerloff, he's figured out a way to get the most out of that Yamaha. And what's interesting is just to see how different bikes are working in the different sectors.
Yes, Gerloff finished second last time out, race 2 in Donington Park. And I said at the time I was relieved not to keep having to say his results don't match his potential. Because how many times he'd come out of the box like this on a Friday and been right up towards the top of the timesheets, and then things have gone wrong for him as races have developed. He's got to justify that pace in race trim, but certainly looking very promising for Garrett Gerloff. It's looking even more promising for Jonathan Ray, who is your fastest man in free practice 2 by over a tenth of a second. Faster than Scott Redding was able to go earlier on in free practice 1. Redding not able to improve this afternoon. That might be a little bit of a cause for concern for him, pending obviously what program he was running this afternoon and tyres and so on. But Jonathan Ray certainly sets himself up as the man to beat as ever here in Assen.